In this video, we will continue the installation of the Raspberry Pi Model 2 NOOBS Raspbian install. If you have not already watched the short video on how to create the SD card, I will link the video in on the description below. If you have already watched that, you should already have an SD card created with NOOBS on it, including Raspbian. Although it's not essential that Raspbian is included, the download, you have a choice of either including a download, which is a bigger download, and having it all on the SD card so you can do an offline install, or you can ignore downloading Raspbian and you will then have to select it and wait for it to download during the install instead. The way I'm doing it, the download, albeit bigger, is kept separately, and then the install itself takes around about 10 minutes or so, with a little bit of post-configuration done after that. So let's get started. So I'm going to use my brand new Raspberry Pi Model 2, and the only thing I'm going to connect into it is a hard network cable, a USB adapter, power, of course, through the mini micro USB connector. I'm also going to plug in a 2.5 gigahertz Logitech mouse and a wired Apple keyboard. So okay, I've now got the Apple keyboard plugged in. I've got the mouse plugged in and powered up. I am just about to plug in the micro SD card and boot up the system. So just give me a moment. This will show you exactly what's going to happen. Now, if there's anything funny happening on the Raspberry Pi itself, I will call out what I see happening as it happens. Okay, I get the red light come immediately on and stay on, and I've got the green light coming on and off and flickering a little bit. As you can see up there, the Raspberry Pi immediately booted up into 1920 by 1080 resolution on the screen and is now giving me the NOOBS menu. Alright, it's just reached out on the network because I plugged the network in. You don't have to have the network plugged in for this, but if you do, of course, it helps. And it's giving me all of these other OSs that are available. So there's a RISC OS. You've got OSMC, which is a, if you like, the next version of Kodi. It's been advanced and it's now OSMC. There's a complete media center. Maybe we'll do another video looking at that. Fedora, Arch, OSMC Pi 1. The other one was OSMC Pi 2. OpenELEC Part 1 and Part 2, and of course Raspbian, which is the one we're going to do. So all you got to do is just select the checkbox for Raspbian and then click on install. Now, if you have a Wi-Fi network, you can actually select that right here. So I've shown you this. I'm just going to power this off again. And the reason I'm going to do that is so that I can actually show you it powering up with the Wi-Fi and see if it automatically takes the Wi-Fi directly. Now, the Wi-Fi that I'm going to plug in here is the official Raspberry Pi Wi-Fi. It has the little Raspberry logo on it. It comes white. I'm just going to plug in the Wi-Fi adapter. I don't know, it might just automatically pick it up if I'm lucky. So you go into Wi-Fi networks, and yes, it has. It's already picked it up. So you can see here there's a whole bunch of different networks that it's seen. So if I just put in my password. Alright, so we've connected to a Wi-Fi. So I've just shown you there that right out of the box, even at install time, the Raspbian will work. Now I'm just going to boot it up again without the physical network connected and just have the Wi-Fi adapter and see what happens there. So I've just turned it off. We're going to power it up again. Hopefully I don't have to reflash the SD card. Now the Wi-Fi is the only thing that's plugged in now. I do not have the hardwired network adapter, and as you can see, it actually has gone onto the network. So the other thing you want to do down here, depending on the country you're in, is at this point change the keyboard. Mine happens to be an English US version, so I'll change that, and it's got now US keyboard, everything else. We're going to select Raspbian for the install, and all you have to now do is click install. Right? It's going to give you a warning that it's going to overwrite whatever's on the SD card. We say yes, and we wait. So this is now going to go through the install. I'm just going to pause the video while it does this. I'm not sure how long it's going to take, but I will tell you once it's done how long it has taken. So back in a minute. We're about 4 minutes into this process, and we're about 30% through. So I estimate another 8 minutes or so before it's completed. But I just wanted to point out that the display, if you've got it so the display is not updating or anything like that, even if it's just the progress bar, then there's something probably not working very well on your Pi. It should be just fine. At no point has the screen sort of seems to have frozen up on me for more than sort of like 1 or 2 seconds at a time before there's another update. Even if that update is just rotating through the advertising banners of what's included for the install and the progress bar slowly creeping up. While this is busy continuing the installing, we're just coming up on the 10-minute mark now. I just want to also point out that I am using a 5 volt 2 amp power supply that actually has a standard pair of wires coming out of it, the kind of thing you would find with a normal barrel jack, but at the end of the cable it has the mini USB connector that connects to the Pi instead of a barrel jack. Now, I noticed on the Raspberry Pi website that they now actually have an official power supply for the Raspberry Pi, which looks from a specifications perspective exactly the same as the one I have, but of course this one's the official Raspberry Pi one. It's white, it's got the Raspberry Pi logo on. It is 5 volts at 2 amps as well, and that is sufficient to drive the Raspberry Pi with a keyboard, a Wi-Fi adapter, your wireless connected mouse, and the 7-inch LCD display that we're going to have a look at in a separate video. But anyway, the point is that I'm trying to make here is that if you're having issues and you're getting a little rainbowy square coming in the top right corner of your display, this would indicate that you are consuming more power than what the power supply is able to deliver, or if you're using a separate USB cable, you have a bad USB cable. Anyway, this thing is now nearly done. It's got probably just a few more moments to go. It's at 98%. So that's taken 12 minutes so far to do that install. You'll be lucky that you haven't sat here waiting for it, but that's 12 minutes. It's now up to 100%. So we're just waiting for this thing to close off, and it's probably going to want to do a restart or something like that, I'd imagine. As I said, the only thing that's currently plugged in here is a hardwired Apple keyboard, a official Wi-Fi dongle, and a Logitech wireless mouse dongle as well, and that's it. So it's not drawing too much power, and aside from the HDMI screen, that is also connected, we're not drawing anything else out of the system. We do not have a hardwired network connection, although if you don't have the Wi-Fi adapter, plug in the network connection and that would work just fine anyway. Alright, so now we've got the message saying the OS is installed successfully, and you notice that I haven't done anything except when it powered up I entered the Wi-Fi credentials, and then I selected Raspbian for the install, and then let it do its thing, aside from changing the keyboard to the one that I have, and you'll change this to whatever keyboard you have that's relevant to your region and country. So let's just say OK here, and now it's going to reboot. And now we have a more familiar load up. The 4 Raspberry Pis in the top left corner indicating the 4 cores are up and running. the standard console kind of startup process happening. We'll just give this a moment to come up, and I know that there are some new features that have been included. I don't know if they were just included in the very latest version of Raspbian, but they certainly were not there when I did my initial 15-minute install of Raspbian video a while ago. So I will try and point these out. One of them is for Wi-Fi configuration. The other one is basically for the whole Raspbian config. So there's my cursor coming up. It's still booting up. The power light has never gone off, and the green light for the SD card is flickering away. So I'm just going to give it another couple of seconds to see if anything automatically kicks in on this. Just for the first time startup. So what we've got up here is an indication that the wireless LAN is not connected yet. And in our menu on the left hand side here, I think one of the things that is here now is the Raspberry Pi configuration. Before, as you noticed here, I did not tell this to use graphical display anywhere. It's automatically now going into the graphics display, and you'd probably have to turn it off. So I'm going to go in here to the Raspberry Pi configuration option. So you just click Menu, Preferences, Raspberry Pi Configuration. Right? Now in here, you can tell it to automatically log in, boot to desktop or command line interface. Now the default now is to desktop instead of command line interface. And I'm not going to bother changing the password or anything. Let's go into interfaces. So here is what you would normally end up having to do from a command line tool, which was the way it used to happen before. So now we don't have to. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. All right, so what you can see here now is that for interfaces, you've got the camera. Do I want to enable it or disable it? Well, I don't have it. I have one, but I don't have it plugged in here at the moment, so I'll leave that disabled. SSH, as you can see, is actually default enabled now instead of disabled, so you do not need to go in and enable that. The SPI and the I2C is disabled. Now I'm going to enable these because I will want to use this for connecting various devices to it. And the serial interface, which is actually on 2 of the GPIO pins, is also enabled by default, and this would let you talk to an Arduino or some other serial device using TTL serial. Anyway, so I'm enabling everything here except for the camera right now. Under performance, you've got overclocking none, or you can take this up to 1 gigahertz. They're supporting a little bit of overclocking right off the bat. I'm going to leave this alone for now. Localization, this is where you set your country and things and your keyboard. So language is English country. I'm going to change to Canada because that's where I happen to be. Set OK. Change the time zone once it comes back to me. Pick a country. There we go. We'll do it that way. And then pick Eastern. So Canada Eastern Standard Time. We'll say OK to that. Pick the one that you use, of course. I'm using United States English. With no euro symbols. I think that's what that is saying. Yeah, no euro on 5. So mine doesn't have euro on 5. Just say OK. And that's pretty much everything. So now we have the system. The host name is the Raspberry Pi. You can change that, of course, if you want to. Just need to make sure you remember what it is. Changing the password. I'm leaving it as Raspberry right now. Because I don't want to confuse everything, and that is the default one. Login user is Pi, which will automatically come in. I want to boot to the desktop, and my overscan is enabled. So my interfaces are all enabled except for the camera, and my performance has been left alone. And I just say OK. And it wants me to reboot, so I'm just going to say yes to that reboot now. I'll come back as soon as it's back up again. Okay, so we now have the Raspberry Pi configured for all of its I/O and everything else, but we still need to just do the final configuration on the Wi-Fi. So the configuration of the Wi-Fi is going to be done on a separate video because many people will already have their NOOBS installed and will just want to look at how to configure the Wi-Fi. So this would complete now the install of the default NOOBS Raspbian 1.5.0 software onto the Raspberry Pi version 2 using NOOBS as the installation platform. The next video is going to deal with configuring the Wi-Fi, so again will be quite short, and I will link that in on the descriptions below this. So I think you'll agree that this new installer for the 1.5.0 of Raspbian and configuration utilities is far, far simpler than previous versions, and hopefully there won't be as many questions now on how to get it installed and to configure the basics for doing GPIO, SPI, and I2C. Anyway, thanks very much, and I will see you on the next video.